Beneath the quiet bloom of springtime, a lonely man sat with nothing but a ring and a memory. His life, built on power and wealth, felt emptier than the silence around him. Then from nowhere a little girl appeared barefoot, clutching a melting popsicle and carrying a truth that would shatter his world. "Sir," she whispered, her eyes wide with innocence, "that ring looks like my mommy." In that instant his breath stopped, and the past he thought was buried forever came rushing back. This was not just a chance encounter. It was destiny tapping him on the shoulder, reminding him of love, loss, and the family he never knew still existed. If you believe that even the smallest voice can change the course of a life, stay with us. Subscribe to Hidden Echo Stories, where every tale is a reminder that hope can be found in the most unexpected places. A quiet spring afternoon wrapped Charleston in a haze of blossoms, the air scented with honeysuckle and wisteria climbing over wrought iron gates. Couples strolled through magnolia gardens, children laughed near the koi pond, and the old oak tree carried the weight of swinging ropes and long-forgotten joy. Yet among the laughter and movement, a man sat still, as if detached from the world around him. His name was Liam Carter, a man whose empire stretched across cities but whose heart had collapsed into silence years ago. On the bench beside him, a navy blazer lay neatly folded, while in his hand he turned a sapphire ring in slow circles. It was not an idle gesture. It was ritual, a silent tether to a woman who had vanished from his life, leaving behind a hole that no wealth could fill. They say spring is for beginnings, but Liam had stopped beginning long ago. His eyes were fixed on the gravel beneath his polished shoes, tracing patterns invisible to anyone but himself. Somewhere nearby, a little girl squealed about frogs. A mother called after her son with a laugh. A pair of tourists paused to take a photograph of the blooming cherry blossoms. All of it passed by Liam like shadows on glass. He was there, yet absent, locked in the rhythm of memory and grief. Each turn of the sapphire on his finger was a reminder of what he had once promised, and what he had lost. Then it happened. A voice so small, so unexpected, pierced through the wall he had built around himself. "Sir, that ring looks like my mommy." Liam froze. For a moment he wondered if his grief had finally taken shape and spoken aloud. But when he turned, he saw her. A little girl, no older than 7, stood only a few feet away. Her hair was wild, with curls lifted by the breeze. Her red t-shirt hung slightly too loose on her thin frame, and in one hand she clutched a melting popsicle, sticky trails running down her wrist. In the other, she carried a sketchbook. Her eyes were steady, searching, and far older than her years. Liam's fingers tightened around the ring, an instinct he could not explain. It was as if she had reached into a vault he had sealed shut and whispered the combination. He cleared his throat, voice dry. "I am sorry." The girl stepped closer, not timid but careful. Her gaze never left his hand. "That ring," she said softly, "it looks like my mommy." Liam looked down at the sapphire, then back at her. Something inside him shifted. "Your mother has one like this?" he asked. The girl nodded with certainty. "It is blue like the sky, but darker. Mommy said it is called a sapphire. She told me it was special." Her small smile carried both pride and sadness. Liam's heart thundered. There could not be another. This ring had been designed in Florence, handcrafted, one of a kind. He had never ordered a second, never seen another like it. And yet here was a child insisting her mother had one just the same. He leaned forward slightly, voice steadier now. "What is your name?" She hesitated, glancing over her shoulder as though someone might be watching. Then she whispered, "Claire." The sound of it sent an ache through him. He repeated gently, "Claire, how old are you?" 7, she said, before looking down at the popsicle in her hand, as though remembering she was a child again. He wanted to ask her 1,000 questions. About her mother, about the ring, about why her voice carried a weight no child should. But before he could speak again, Claire took a step back. Her grip tightened on her sketchbook as though it contained secrets too heavy to share. "I have to go," she murmured, and before Liam could rise, she was already running toward the hedge maze. He called her name, his voice sharp and urgent, and chased after her, dodging couples and nearly colliding with a boy chasing a frisbee. He entered the maze, turned left, then right, his breath quickening. "Claire!" But when he reached the center, all he found was silence. No little girl, no red shirt, only the sketchbook lying on the damp grass. She was gone. Liam stood there, surrounded by roses in full bloom, his hand trembling as he picked up the sketchbook. The noise of the garden returned in fragments, laughter, footsteps, the rush of spring air, but all of it seemed distant, unreal. In his hands he held something far heavier than paper. It felt like an echo of the past, one he was not ready for but could no longer ignore. Hours later, in the silence of his penthouse, he placed the sketchbook on the counter and stared at it for what felt like eternity. Sunlight streamed through tall glass windows, casting patterns on the marble floor. The city below moved as always, horns honking, traffic pulsing, but Liam remained still. Finally, unable to resist, he opened it. On the first page was a drawing of a woman with long dark hair in a blue dress. On her finger was a carefully shaded sapphire ring. Beneath the picture, written in uneven letters, were the words, "My mommy's ring." His breath caught. He turned the page. Another drawing, this one darker. A tall, faceless man stood beside a window, and behind it a little girl looked out. Crude lines of bars stretched across the glass like a prison. Underneath, scrawled words read, "Before the bad man moved us." Liam gripped the edge of the sketchbook so tightly his knuckles whitened. He turned more pages. A crying woman. A house with broken shingles. A man with excess across his eyes. And finally, a ring again, the same sapphire band, this time labeled, "Her Promise." The sketchbook slid from his hands onto the counter. His chest rose and fell unevenly. He had spent years burying the grief, telling himself Sarah was gone, that the accident had taken everything. Yet now, through a child's sketches, through her small searching eyes, the past was no longer buried. It was alive, reaching for him. And though part of him wanted to close the book, to seal it away with the rest of his pain, another part knew that this was not chance. This was something else. Fate, perhaps. Or maybe the stubborn echo of love that refused to die. Liam pressed a hand to his forehead, trying to steady himself. But even as he stood in the quiet expanse of his penthouse, the image of Claire's curls, her popsicle, and her whispered words haunted him. "That ring looks like my mommy's." For the first time in years, Liam Carter felt the faint stir of something he thought was gone forever. Not grief, not despair, but the possibility of beginning again. The sketchbook remained on Liam's counter like a fragile piece of evidence, too delicate to move, too heavy to ignore. He had not touched it again that night, yet its images haunted him in the quiet hours when sleep would not come. The woman with the sapphire ring, the little girl behind barred windows, the words scrawled by a child's hand. Each page was a doorway into questions he could no longer push aside. When morning sunlight crept into the atrium, casting long shadows across his glass walls, he finally admitted what had been growing inside him since that moment in the garden. The girl was not a coincidence. The ring was not a trick of memory. There was something binding them together, and he needed to know what it was. By the third day he returned to Magnolia Gardens, waiting on the same bench with the sketchbook beside him like a silent offering. Couples came and went. Children chased each other near the koi pond, but he was not watching them. He was watching for a flash of red, a small figure carrying the weight of questions she should never have had to bear. Each hour that passed without her presence felt like a tightening rope around his chest. Yet he returned again the next day, and again the day after. Until finally, as the sun dipped lower on a Friday afternoon, he saw her. Claire was seated on the ground near the pond, sketchbook open across her knees, popsicle untouched at her side. She looked smaller somehow, more fragile, and yet when her eyes lifted to his, there was recognition. He approached carefully, not wanting to startle her. "Claire," he said softly. She studied him with wary eyes, her little shoulders tense, as though deciding whether he was safe. For a long moment neither of them spoke, the sounds of spring filling the silence between them. Then she stood, and in the fading light he noticed what made his stomach twist. Just beneath the sleeve of her t-shirt was a bruise, faint but unmistakable, a smudge of purple and yellow as if someone had gripped her too tightly. His voice faltered. "Did you fall?" She froze, eyes darting sideways. He gets mad when I talk about mommy, she whispered, too quickly, too rehearsed. The air around them seemed to still. Liam crouched to her level, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. Claire, who gets mad? She clutched her sketchbook to her chest, her hands trembling. The man we live with, he said she is never coming back, but I do not believe him. Liam's chest ached at the sight of her courage pressed against fear. He wanted to pull her close, to take her away right then, but he knew he could not. Trust had to be built carefully, especially with a child whose world had been bent by lies. So he simply said, I want to help, but I need you to trust me. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, with the gravity of someone much older than 7, she reached for the small chain around her neck. From it she pulled a locket worn at the edges. Inside was a folded photograph. Her little hands unfolded it and placed it in his palm. Liam's breath caught as he stared. It was Sarah. Older, tired, but unmistakable. The woman he had loved, the woman he thought dead for 7 years, stared back at him from the photograph with eyes that had not changed. His knees buckled and he sat hard on the bench. The world tilted. His chest filled with a rush of grief and hope so powerful it felt like breaking. This is your mother, he asked, though he already knew. Claire nodded. She sings to me when I cannot sleep, or she used to. Her voice faltered and Liam blinked rapidly, fighting to focus. The truth swirled around him in fragments too fast to catch. Sarah alive, Sarah with a daughter, their daughter. He wanted to ask where she was now, but Claire only shook her head. One day she was gone, then Evan came. The name hit him like a blow. He did not know it yet, but the way Claire's body folded in on itself at the sound told him it was not just neglect. It was something darker. Liam asked where she lived, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. Claire hesitated, then pulled a crumpled receipt from her pocket. It is from the store near our house. That is all I have. He took it gently, his thumb brushing the fragile edge. It was not much, but it was a start. You are not alone, he told her, and she gave the faintest smile before disappearing into the hedge maze again, leaving him with the photo and the receipt. For the first time in years, Liam Carter had purpose. Not the hollow purpose of meetings and empires, but the burning purpose of protecting something that mattered. That night he sent the drawings and the photo to Carmen Delaney, a private investigator he trusted more than anyone. Her reply came swiftly. I am on it, that ring. It is what I think it is. Liam stared at the sapphire on his finger, the same design he now knew Sarah had kept. It is exactly what you think, he wrote back. Within days, Carmen traced the receipt to a small store in Jasper County, Georgia. A name surfaced, Evan Royce. A former employee of Child Protective Services, dismissed for misconduct, never charged. He lived in a trailer park 20 minutes from the store. No utilities in his name, no bank accounts, only cash. A ghost living in plain sight. The pieces were forming and they were darker than he imagined. Carmen's voice over the phone was grave. This is not just one bad foster placement. There are patterns. Children moved without verification, names that vanish. I think it runs deeper. Liam's jaw tightened. Keep eyes on him. If Claire is there, I want her safe before sunset. The ring felt heavier on his hand, as if Sarah's memory itself demanded action. When Liam returned to the garden again, Claire was waiting. Her face lit with something not childish glee but relief, the recognition of an ally. He knelt beside her and placed a small phone in her palm, simple, with one button that glowed blue. This only calls me. No games, no apps, just me. Day or night. If anything feels scary, you press it. Claire turned it in her hands, cautious. Then, with a hesitance that broke his heart, she touched his wrist and whispered, Did Mommy give you that ring? Liam nodded. A long time ago. Her eyes searched his face. Did she love you? His voice trembled but held steady. She did, and I loved her, I still do. She smiled faintly as though she already knew, then slipped the phone into her satchel and walked away. That night, long after he returned to his penthouse, the phone rang. Claire's small voice shook through the line. He came home early. He is yelling. I do not know where to hide. Liam was already moving, keys in hand. Stay on the line, keep talking to me. A crash echoed in the background, followed by a man's slurred voice. Claire whispered, I am in the closet, but he found the sketchbook. Then the line went dead. Liam stood frozen for a second, then bolted for the car. His pulse thundered, his body electric with fear and fury. He had lost Sarah once. He would not lose Claire, not now. The phone went silent, and for a moment Liam's body refused to move. The dead line in his hand was heavier than any weight he had carried before. Then something inside him snapped into motion. He ran, heart hammering, elevator doors closing around him as his mind raced with the echo of Claire's trembling voice. He had failed Sarah once. He would not, fail their daughter. Carmen's voice crackled through the speaker of his car phone as he tore through downtown traffic. We traced the signal. Last location was a farmhouse outside Ridgeland, sending coordinates. His grip tightened on the steering wheel. "Do not lose her," he muttered. Sirens and horns blurred into background noise as his SUV flew toward the dark horizon. The farmhouse stood beneath hanging moss, its walls sagging with years of neglect. Even before he stepped out of the car, Liam knew this place had swallowed more than just one childhood. Carmen emerged from the shadows, flashlight in hand, her voice low. Phone signal died here, either smashed or cut. Liam did not wait. He strode up the rotting porch, the boards groaning beneath his weight. The smell hit him first, mildew, stale smoke, and something darker. He pushed the door open and stepped into a room that looked like time itself had abandoned it. Torn furniture, broken blinds, a sock discarded on the floor. And then the drawings on the wall, crayon flowers and stars, a stick figure holding hands with another. "Me plus mommy," the caption read in a shaky scrawl. His throat tightened as he reached out to trace the fragile lines with his hand. In the bedroom he found a stuffed rabbit, worn and dirty, abandoned on a rocking chair. Claire's rabbit. He picked it up carefully, pressing it against his chest as if it could absorb the fire raging inside him. Carmen's voice cut through. "Over here." She had found a loose board in the corner, pried open to reveal a small, rusted box. Inside were forged documents, CPS transfers signed under different aliases, leading to nowhere. Beneath the stack of false papers was something that made Liam's knees buckle. A ring, not the one he wore, but Sarah's. The sapphire band he had placed on her hand years ago, dulled by time yet still alive with memory. And beneath it a folded letter in Sarah's handwriting. His hands trembled as he opened it. The words blurred with tears. "If you are reading this, it means I could not stop them. They are taking children, erasing records. Evan is at the center. Claire is ours. She was born after the storm, after they told you I was gone. Please find her. Please keep her safe. She is everything. Love always, Sarah." Paper shook in his grip. Claire was not just the child of a stranger. She was his daughter, his and Sarah's. Years of grief collapsed into a single truth that burned through his chest. He whispered her name like a vow. "Claire." Carmen's voice called him back, urgent. She held up her phone, showing a grainy highway image. A van. 3 children barely visible in the back, one in a red shirt. 30 minutes ago, she said. Liam turned toward the door, rage and determination sharpening his voice. "We move now." The sting was set at a gas station near Daytona, federal agents blending into the early morning crowd of travelers. Liam waited with Carmen, his jacket rough against his skin, his heart pounding not with fear but with fire. When the white van pulled in, his chest tightened. He could see her through the grimy window, small and folded into herself, but alive. Evan Royce stepped out, lanky and twitching, eyes scanning for danger. "You him?" he asked Liam. Liam forced a calm he did not feel. "Yeah." "You said you had 3. Evan smirked. "2 are quiet, one talks too much about her dead mom." Liam's jaw clenched. "I like a challenge." Evan laughed and opened the van doors. Claire looked up, her eyes widened, recognition and relief flooding her small face. She did not say a word, but she did not need to. Liam took one step forward. "She is coming with me." Evan blinked. "No, not until payment." Liam raised his hand in signal. Agents surged from behind the station, shouting commands. Evan panicked, yanking Claire from the van and pressing her to his chest like a shield. She cried out, "Daddy!" The word cracked the air. Liam's heart roared. "Let her go," he said, his voice steel. "Touch her again and prison will feel like mercy compared to me." Evan stumbled backward, losing his grip. Claire tumbled free, knees scraping on pavement, and Liam caught her in his arms before she hit the ground. She clung to him, sobbing into his chest. "I thought you would not come," she whispered. "I will always come," he promised, voice breaking. Agents tackled Evan, his shouts drowned out by sirens, but Liam heard none of it. He held Claire close, her small hands gripping his shirt like anchors. For the first time in years, he felt whole. Back in Charleston, life began to shift. Claire settled into his home, her laughter filling spaces that had long echoed with silence. Oatmeal breakfasts, exactly 3 blueberries. Afternoons sketching trees with secrets. Nights sleeping with her rabbit, which she named Buttons because of its missing eye. A DNA test confirmed what his heart already knew: she was his. And yet another truth waited. Carmen brought word of Sarah. Alive, hidden away in a psychiatric facility, silenced by drugs and misdiagnosis. When Liam saw her, fragile in a wheelchair, his world tilted again. He knelt, took her hand, whispered, "I found her. She is safe. She remembers you." And Sarah opened her eyes, blue and weary, and rasped his name. "Liam." His tears fell as he whispered back, "I am here." Their reunion was not easy, but it was real. When Claire walked into the room and whispered, "Mommy," Sarah's arms opened with a tremor, and years of loss folded into a single embrace. The trial against Evan followed, his crimes laid bare before a courtroom. Claire, wearing the ring on a silver chain, faced the jury and told them, "My mommy fought to keep me safe." Her voice silenced the room. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, Liam held her hand, Sarah's wheelchair beside him, and knew they were finally free. Seasons turned. Blossoms returned to the garden where it had all begun. This time, laughter filled the air. Claire skipped ahead in a white dress, sketchbook in one hand, picnic blanket in the other. Liam and Sarah walked behind her, hand in hand, no longer shadows of themselves but whole again. Under the cherry tree. Claire opened her sketchbook to show a drawing of the 3 of them together, with a single word scrawled above, "Home." Liam's throat tightened as he watched her grin. And when he finally slid a new sapphire ring onto Sarah's finger, forged not for memory but for future, Claire clapped and laughed. "Does this mean I get to be flower girl?" she asked. Liam smiled. "Only if you promise to dance the first dance with me." She agreed with a giggle, and for once the world did not feel fragile. It felt promised. As the sun dipped and petals swirled around them, Liam whispered to his daughter, "Thank you for finding me." Claire turned, her curls catching the light, and said with a mischievous grin, "Silly, you found me." And with that, their story, once shattered by loss, became whole again. Sometimes the most powerful stories are not about empires or fortunes, but about the quiet moments when love refuses to be silenced. Liam Carter had everything the world could measure, yet he was empty until one small voice broke through his grief. A little girl with tangled curls and a melting popsicle whispered words that changed everything. "That ring looks like my mommy." From that moment on, his life was no longer about wealth or success. It became a journey of rediscovery, of courage, of choosing love in the face of fear. Through drawings in a child's sketchbook, Liam found not only the traces of Sarah, the woman he thought he had lost forever, but also the truth that he was a father. Claire was his daughter, born in the shadows of loss but carrying the light of both her parents. Against the cruelty of a broken system and the danger of a man who thrived on fear, Liam stood not as a CEO but as a father. He risked everything to bring her home, to give her the safety and love she deserved. And when Sarah returned, fragile but alive, their family was made whole again, not by perfection but by resilience. This story is not just about one man, one woman, or one child. It is about the universal truth that love, when it is real, finds a way back. It can be buried under years of silence, hidden behind locked doors, or disguised in fear, but it does not die. Love waits. Love whispers through children's laughter, through memories drawn in crayon, through the simple act of saying, "I believe." Claire's courage gave Liam purpose. Sarah's survival proved that even in the darkest places, hope can endure. Together, they showed that second chances are not just possible, they are worth fighting for. And maybe that is what we all need to remember. That no matter how far we fall, no matter how much we lose, there is always a chance to rebuild, to heal, to begin again. Sometimes it takes the innocence of a child to remind us that family is not about perfection. It is about presence. It is about showing up, again and again, even when the world says it is too late. If this story touched your heart, let it remind you that love can always be found, even in the hidden echoes of our lives. Here at Hidden Echo Stories, we share tales that stir the soul, stories of resilience, of hope, and of the small miracles that change everything. Subscribe today, because the next story may be the one your heart has been waiting for. Stay with us, and let us walk together through the echoes of love, courage, and second chances.